Hi guys, in this video we're going to learn how to solve multi-step equations. Not one, not two, could be 3, 4, 5 step equations. So in example 1 we have a 3t plus 5 minus 5 equals 11. So before solving this equation we must simplify either side of the equal sign. So right now on the left side we have a 3t and a 5t. Remember, these are considered like terms. So we're going to add these two together right away. So we have 8t, and write down the rest of the equation, minus 5 equals 11. So then what's being done to the 8t is that we're subtracting 5 from it. So in order for us to make 0, we're going to zero this out so that the 8t is going to be all by itself. We're going to use the inverse operation of subtraction and add 5 to both sides. And we're left with 8t plus 0 equals 16. We don't have to write down that 0, so we're going to rewrite it as 8t equals 16. And finally, to take a look at what's being done to t, we're multiplying the 8. And in order for us to make this 1 now, we have to use the inverse operation of multiplication and divide both sides by 8. That'll leave us with 1t equals 16 divided by 8, which is 2. And we don't have to write down the 1, we can just write down t equals 2. So this required us to take 1, 2, 3 steps in order for us to solve this equation. Now a property that we need to discuss is something called the distributive property, and we use it to multiply a number by a group of terms added or subtracted together. So if you see a number or a variable and next to it is parentheses, that's grouping terms that are added or subtracted together inside. This would read 4 times the quantity x minus 3. So according to the order of operations, you were told that you have to simplify what's in the parentheses first, but can you actually simplify an x and subtract it by 3? Absolutely not. They're not like terms. So we can use the distributive property to multiply each number or variable inside the parentheses by the number on the outside. So if we have 4, we can distribute that to the x, and the operation that we use is multiplication, so we have 4x, and then distribute to the next term, which is the negative 3. So 4 times negative 3 ends up being negative 12. So that's how we use the distributive property, and something that you're going to use in multiple occasions throughout the year. So in example 2, we have 22 equals 5a plus 3 times the quantity at a plus 2. So when solving any two-step or multi-step equation, we have to simplify either side of the equal sign first. So on the right side, we have a 5a plus 3 times the quantity of a plus 2. We're going to first use the distributive property. So the 3 times the a plus 2, let's simplify that by distributing the 3 to the a. So let's write down 22 equals 5a plus 3a. That's when we distribute the 3 to the first term. And then we have to also distribute the 3 to the second term, plus 2, so we get 3 times positive 2, which is plus 6. So now looking at this, our current equation, 22 equals 5a plus 3a plus 6, do you see any like terms? I think I'm pointing to them. So let's combine our two like terms, 5a and 3a, to get 8a. Write down the rest of the equation, 22 equals 8a now, plus 6. And then you can ask yourself, well, what's being done to the a that we need to get rid of or zero out so that we can solve this equation. Right now, we're basically adding a 6 to both sides, so we need to make sure that we can use the inverse operation of the subtracting the 6 so we can make the 0 to both sides. So 22 minus 6, we get 16 equals 8a plus 0. Just to get in the habit of knowing that 6 minus 6 is 0. We don't need to write that. If you get the hang of it, just kind of know that's 0, and we can write down 8a equals 16. And then finally, to get our a all by itself, we want to make sure that that's going to be 1a left over. So the inverse operation of multiplication would be division. So we're going to divide both sides by a to get 2 equals 1a, or just a equals 2, or 2 equals a. Alright, example 3, we have 3/4 times the quantity x minus 5 equals 9, and you look at it, we have a 3/4, our fraction, being multiplied by the entire quantity x minus 5. Now, you do have some choices here. But before that, we have to look at what's being done to this left side of the equation. We're not adding anything to the 3/4 times x minus 5, nor are we subtracting anything after that. It's just 3/4 times x minus 5. Now, our choices, you can distribute the 3/4 to the x and the -5 and have a simplified equation, or we can do something where we can actually do two things at once. So right now, 3 is being multiplied by the quantity x minus 5 and also being divided by 4. Now, I can get rid of this 3/4 by just multiplying by the reciprocal, and that'll basically give me two inverse operations at once. So when I do that, I'm multiplying by 4/3, because I'm going to make this 1. We call it a twofer because we are doing two things at one time. And we have to do that on both sides. So when I actually multiply across, we have 12 over 12, and we know that 12 divided by 12 is going to give us 1, so that's 1 out right now. And we still have the x minus 5 equals 9 times 4 is 36, 1 times 3 is 3. So we simplify further. We don't have to write down 12 divided by 12. We know that's going to equal 1. So then 1 times x minus 5 equals 36 divided by 3, which is 12. And we don't have to write that 1 down. So we have x minus 5 equals 12. And we don't even need the parentheses anymore. So we're going to erase those. And now we have an equation, x minus 5 equals 12. So what's being done to the x is that we're subtracting by 5. So we have to use the inverse operation to make that 0. So that the x is all by itself. And we are going to add the 5 to both sides. When you do that, you have x equals 17. So I didn't actually write down the 0 in this case, just because we know out of habit that it'll 0 out. So again, make sure you guys rewatch any parts of the video that didn't make sense, slow it down, pause it, ask questions, make sure you're completely focused on listening and watching the video, not on Facebook, not doing any other thing like video games or whatever the situation is. And make sure you guys write down any questions that you have.